friends, welcome to Lovin' Life's Journey DIY. My name is Chantel. Thank you so much for watching. Today's video is full of some fall DIYs that are also great for the Thanksgiving season because they have something in them that helps us focus on being thankful or grateful. And studies have shown that when we focus on being grateful for the things that we have and thankful for our blessings, that it really does help improve our mood. It makes us happier and it decreases depression and anxiety. So I would encourage you or challenge you to this fall as we head toward Thanksgiving, keep a list of things that you're thankful for, or write in your journal a couple of things every day that you're thankful for, and just be more mindful of that. And right now we're going to focus on some DIYs for fall and Thanksgiving that are really budget friendly. So let's get started.
For this project, I will be using this sign from the fall section at Dollar Tree, and I'm going to also be using one sheet of this peel and stick wallpaper. And pretty much all my supplies I'm using in this video today are from Dollar Tree. If they're from somewhere else, I will let you know. I'll also be using this wood picture frame. And I'm going to be using the word blessed from this pack of faux letter words. A few other items I will be using are this ribbon from Dollar Tree. You can use any ribbon. I chose this burlap with the gold trim. And I'm going to be using some fall florals from Dollar Tree. And also I picked up some of these Velcro adhesive squares. I'm going to start by taking my peel and stick wallpaper, and I'm going to be covering my sign with this. So I'm just going to be marking out the size that I need, and I'm not going to be covering the top and bottom pieces, just the middle part of my sign. To make it easier to peel the backing off, they do have a seam on the backing, but I decided to tape over that so that it would stay together as I was peeling it back. I figured this would make it a little bit easier to apply to my sign. So I just peel back the top part of that wallpaper backing, and then I'm just going to place my wallpaper and pull the backing off. And it goes on really easy and it sticks really well. Next, I'm going to take my picture frame and I'm going to just pull off that stand from the back of it. Then I'll open it up and I'm going to clean the glass, and then I'll put my picture in it. I just printed off a picture. This is our daughter, our son-in-law, and our two grandsons. I'm going to put this picture inside this picture frame. Once I have my picture together, I did put my Velcro squares on the back of the picture frame as well as on my sign board so that I can have this be removable so I can switch out the picture anytime I want. Next, I'm going to take the faux letter word blessed, and I am going to use some of this Waverly Antique Wax to uh, just dry brush around the edges of the word. This is going to give it some definition and a little bit of depth and just help it to stand out a little bit more. You can just use like a brown craft paint as well, but I just went around all of the letters on this word. And once that paint has dried, I'm going to attach my word to my sign. Now I am only going to glue it to the picture frame itself because I still want to be able to remove that picture frame. So it's going to look like it's glued down on the bottom of the sign, but it's really only going to be glued on the picture frame so it can still be removed to change out my picture. I'm going to take my ribbon and I'm going to create a bow. I'm going to be putting mine at the center of the top of my sign. And so I just kind of measure out how uh, wide I want that to be or how large I want it to be. And then I'm going to loop my ribbon back and forth, giving it a twist each time in the center so that the right side of the ribbon is facing out. And I'm going to do 4 loops on each side and then finish it off with a loop in the center, and then I'll tie that off using a little bit of jute twine. Before I glue my bow down, I am going to kind of figure out what florals I want to put with it. So I am going to take a little bit of this fall eucalyptus, and then I'm also going to use a few of these little flowers and place them around. I always like to arrange them before I glue them down. That way I know I'm going to like the way it looks. And once I'm happy with it, then I'll go ahead and glue them all down. And I really like the muted tones of this project, even though it's for fall, it's a little more neutral and it looks great for fall, but it could also be left out all year long. For this next project, I will be using these fun signs from Dollar Tree, and I will be using several of them, and they do come in several different styles. I'm also going to be using a 1/4 inch dowel that is about 24 inches long, and I picked this up at Walmart. I found this cute little fall bucket at Dollar Tree. They had several different styles of this, but I loved this one. I'm also going to be using some foam. I didn't have any other type, so I'm going to use this floral foam. And then I'm also going to be using some Spanish moss. And for paint, I'm going to be using some off-white chalk paint. First thing I'm going to do is remove these little directional signs, and I'm going to use my heat tool for this because they do use quite a bit of glue to assemble this sign. And so you have to soften it up, and I use this old Cricut spatula that I have, just something thin that you can get underneath there. I like the metal ones because you can heat it up with your heat tool and it will slide in there a little bit easier. And so I'm just going to remove these and try to get all of the excess glue off as well. Some of my signs had some little smudges or little strings of glue on them, and I just used this white art eraser to take those off, and that worked really well. Now I'm going to pair up my signs and I want 3 sets. So I'm just matching them up with kind of the sets that I want to use. I decided to use one style on one side and then another style on the other side. And I'm going to take the signs that I decided to use and take my sanding block and sand the back of those to get any of that sticky residue that's left from the glue off of them. Now I'm going to take my dowel and remove the label off of it. Then I am going to paint it using my chiffon cream chalk paint. And then I'm also going to paint the backs of all of those directional signs that I decided to use. While my paint is drying, I'm going to take my cute little bucket and I'm going to fill it with some of this floral foam. This is going to give me a base to push my dowel down inside of. And that second block of foam, I am going to hot glue that to the first one so that it stays in place. That first one is in there pretty tightly, so I think it's going to stay just fine. And then I'm going to fill in with some smaller pieces all around it. And I am going to just take my dowel rod and I'm going to push that all the way down in the center of that foam. And as you can see here, I like to use a metal ruler to cut through those foam blocks. It works really well. It does kind of make a mess, but anything you use to cut this foam is going to make a mess. And so uh, one way I fix that is I just clean it up with my little USB vacuum. This is one of my favorite crafting tools. I have it linked in the description box below, and it is such a time saver for cleaning up. Now I'm going to take some Spanish moss, and this is the one from Dollar Tree, and I don't really love the color of it. And so I know I had some left over from, I think I got it from Walmart. It's a little bit lighter color, and I like it better. So I'm going to be using this. And I really like the look of Spanish moss, but man, is it messy to work with. Once again, my little vacuum will take care of this. I just get rid of all the big pieces and then just vacuum up all of those small pieces. Now I'm going to assemble my sign. I'm going to be adding these little directional plaques to my dowel, and I'm going to kind of sandwich the dowel in between the two signs. So I'm going to place my top one about 2.5 inches down from the top of the dowel and just glue that in place using some hot glue. Then I'll glue my other 2 sets with about 2.5 inches between them as well. So they are kind of evenly spaced. And I am going to be putting these on kind of at different angles. This just gives it a little bit more of a whimsical look. I decided this needed a little bit of something on the top, so I found these little burlap pumpkins in the off-white color, and I'm going to remove the clip from the bottom of that and then just glue it to the top of the dowel. And I did make a little bit of a hole in the bottom of the pumpkin so it would fit down over the dowel a little bit because I was trying to make that a little bit shorter looking. Then down in the bucket on top of the Spanish moss, I'm going to add some other little pumpkins and I'm going to add some of this greenery. I did get this in the fall section at Dollar Tree. Even though it's mostly green, it does have some kind of yellow orange flowers. They look really like wildflowers, and I really like that. And I really like how this project looks one way on one side, and then I used the other style of sign on the other side, and it gives it a little bit different look. So it looks great from all directions, but it's not exactly the same on both sides. For this next project, I'm going to be using this cute little wood sign from Dollar Tree. And I found some fall fabrics at Dollar Tree as well. I really love this plaid design. And then this was cute. It had little fall mushrooms and leaves. I'll be using some jute twine as well as some of these little pumpkins that I had. I got these at Target years ago, but you can use any type of tag. And then I'm going to be using these faux leather words again. I'm going to be using the one that has grateful in it, and then I'm also going to be using thankful and blessed. For my paint supplies, I'm going to be using the Waverly Antique Wax. You could just use a brown craft paint and an off-white chalk paint. This one is called Chiffon Cream. And I'm also going to be using some matte finish Mod Podge. This first step is going to take a little bit of patience. I'm going to use my little Cricut spatula and my heat tool and heat up that uh, overlay on the sign because I want to remove it. But this needs to be done pretty carefully so that you don't break the thin pieces of wood that are in the pumpkin design. And I'm just kind of alternating, putting some heat on it and heating up my tool, and then just working all the way around carefully to pop that off. And even though I was being pretty careful, I still ended up splintering a little bit of the wood on the back of those little thin lines for the pumpkins. And then I also kind of splintered it on one side on the back. So I just used some wood glue and kind of repaired that the best that I could. Next, I'm going to take my sanding block and go over it, get any glue residue and splinters off. Want to go over that pumpkin really carefully. In fact, I didn't really go over those thin little pieces of wood because I was afraid that the sandpaper might rip those up. Next, I'm going to take my chiffon cream or off-white chalk paint and just paint that piece that we just removed. While that's drying, I am going to take my fabric and put it up against that raised part on the lid of the cup. And I just used my fingernail to press it up against there so I could get a line where I wanted to cut. This is just giving me kind of the curve of that. And I'm not going to put the fabric right up against it, but it does give me kind of the same line so that it looks symmetrical. Then I'm going to take my brown paint or antique wax and I'm going to paint the lid of my cup. And this did take 2 coats of paint. Once my brown paint is dry, I'm going to attach my fabric and I am going to use the matte finish Mod Podge to do this. So I'm going to put a fairly generous amount on the wood sign piece and then I'll just press my fabric down on top of that and smooth it out. So I'm going to trim off the excess fabric. And at first I was thinking I was just going to fold this over onto the back side and glue it down. However, I realized that I wanted the back to look a little bit neater because this is actually going to be a gift that you could give to someone to let them know how thankful you are for them or just to thank them for something. And so I decided instead of folding the fabric over, I'm going to just take an X-Acto knife and I'm going to trim off the excess fabric. This works best if you have a sharp blade, and you could also use a rotary cutter for this as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and go over the top of my fabric with another coat of the Mod Podge. This is just going to really seal it in. It's also going to help the edges of the fabric to help keep those from fraying. So it will give it a nice finish and it will be adhered to the sign really well. I also took the Mod Podge and went over the lid of the cup with a coat of that as well. Next, I'm going to take my faux leather words and I am going to uh, do a little surgery on them. I'm going to cut thank off of thankful, and then I'm going to cut an S off of blessed, and I'm going to add that to the end of thank. So I have thanks. Then I'm going to take 2 of the grateful words, and from them, I am going to create the words a latte. So I'm going to have to kind of piece them together. So I'll take the A from one of them and then use letters from uh, what's left of that word and some of the other one to create the word latte. Next, I'm going to take the little pumpkin piece and I'm going to add a little piece of burlap to the back of this. I was going to just leave it open so that the plaid fabric showed through, but I kind of wanted the pumpkin to stand out a little bit more, so that's why I decided to use some of this burlap. I placed the word thanks on the lid of the cup and a latte at the very bottom. And then I put the pumpkin piece right above that. And a couple things to note when you glue this on. You do only want to glue it on the sides and the bottom. We're going to leave the top open so we can slide something back behind it. And then I did glue it with hot glue. However, it didn't really want to stay very well. And so I did end up putting some E6000 behind it on the sides and the bottom, and then setting a heavy book on it and letting it dry for several hours. And I did use the hot glue on the words, and that held really well. To dress this up a little bit, I'm going to take some jute twine and a couple of those little cardboard pumpkin tags that I had. You can use any kind of tags. You could also use some little wood shapes. And I'm just going to uh, put some twine through this and have my two ends have a little pumpkin tag on it. And so I'm just winding the jute twine around the stem and tying that off. And these little cardboard pumpkins that I have are actually kind of smooth or slick on the front surface. And so I'm going to use a dry erase marker to write on my little tags. I think that will be a nice touch, and that way I can personalize this. And then you can just put a gift card back behind that pumpkin piece where I said we're going to slide something back behind it. And it's like a little gift card holder that's just super cute and fun to give. I didn't have a coffee card to stick in here, but I had a crumble cookie card, so I stuck that in there. But what a cute, fun fall gift to give to somebody to let them know how thankful you are for them. So, in my last Dollar Tree haul, I showed you this fun thankful jar that I found, and I wanted to use it to put a candle in. And I found this green candle that kind of coordinates with the design on the jar. So, I'm going to use that. And then I'm also going to use these acrylic leaves. I think they call it table scatter. It's just kind of confetti you sprinkle around on your table. And then I'm going to use some jute twine. And so I'm just going to remove the lid from my jar and put my candle down inside that right in the center. And I'm going to take my acrylic leaves and I'm going to use all but two of them to put down inside the jar, kind of in between the candle and the sides of the jar. That will act as a little filler. It will also help keep the candle in place. Next, I'm going to take my jute twine and I'm going to wrap it around the top of the jar about 4 or 5 times and then tie a knot on the front corner. and I'm going to glue my 2 acrylic leaves to that jute twine and just have them kind of dangling there like a couple of little charms. And that's all there is to this. And I think it just really makes a very quick, cute craft. This would be a fun gift to give to somebody, but also just fun to display in your house as well. The last thing I wanted to share with you is this two-tiered tray that I got at Dollar Tree for $5. It has the fall leaf on the top. They also had ones with the pumpkin on the top, and it's supposedly very easy to assemble. However, I did find there's a little challenge with it. So if you do pick one of these up, I wanted you to be aware of this. So it's very easy to put the bottom part together, and you just have the post that goes through the center of this. And the bottom one has a screw that you take off and then put the screw up through the bottom of the bottom tray and then screw on your post, which was no big deal. But then when I went to add the top tray to this, the screw part was not long enough to go through the tray and still leave a good amount to be able to screw the top post into. So that presented a challenge. So what I did was I went and got my drill and a drill bit that is basically the same size as the post. And then I just drilled down just a little bit into the top of the tray. So that gave me enough room to screw the post into. Now you don't want to drill all the way through or it's just going to, your tray is going to just fall to the bottom of your post. So I just drilled a little bit and then uh, I was able to screw in that top post. Now, I did get it on here a little crooked and I did fix it later, but it's not the highest quality, but with a little tweaking, you could certainly make it look very nice. And so I think for $5, it's still worth it, even though you have to do a little DIY. I hope you enjoyed these fall DIYs meant to inspire thankfulness. If you did like this video, please hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider hitting that subscribe button as well. It doesn't cost you anything, but it really helps me out. And don't forget to set your notifications so that YouTube will notify you every time I upload a new video. I'd love to hear in the comments which of these projects is your favorite, and I'd also love to hear something that you're thankful for. I'm thankful for all of you, and I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a blessed day.